Hello guys, welcome to my third tutorial online, and this time I am very excited because I'm going to talk of a lot of cool features from TP6 and so on. So very interesting stuff going on here, and I asked a friend of mine to make a music just for this tutorial, just a little bit. So he made like this.
When the pimp's in the crib, man, drop it like it's hot, drop it like it's hot, drop.
But he was mistaken. It was not drop it like it thought. It was droplet. But well, he recorded this and the video was made. I didn't have the courage to ask him to do it again, so it's okay. Cool. So let's start. And what I have done, it's something that I can use in production, and of course you can use it too, because I'm generous. I'm joking. Okay, so basically I make a lot of pack shots where we have to make droplets on objects. So I made a cool stuff over here, and I've developed a TD tool, so I can just give this to anyone to use, and you don't have to have knowledge of TP, so you don't have to go inside here and choose the objects where you want, blah blah blah. So it's a TD tool with all the values needed exposed, and when you are developing a TD tool, uh, things start growing up, because now you do something simple and then you feel the need to make something a little bit more complex. So let's get it started. I'm going to show you what this tool can do. So first of all, we have the environment set up, and we choose the object to do the droplets. Then you choose if you want active particles or not. So I'm going to choose on. Okay, and then I press play, and voila. I have a friend that's always making fun of me because I use the voila. But okay, I'm going to continue to use this. So let's keep it on. So let me show you. I have number of active particles if I want like 50 particles falling down, and of course this is in real-time calculations. I could make so a preview to be faster, but okay, I'm going to just to put 10 particles and it will be in real time. So thinking particles is doing everything from creating particles, then the mesh itself, and this is really fluids. Fluid. I'm using flow from TP, so it's really cool. So let me show you. I can choose inactive particles because okay, I want like let me just put on frame 0, because sometimes when you change in the middle of the animation, this take a long time to process, to compute. So let me just put 500 particles, inactive ones. So okay, cool. And here it is. We have the inactive particles. The mesh I'm using inside TP, it's with low res, because for this tutorial I want it to be in real time. Cool. But okay, and in the end, when you are going to make the render, you will have to change this, of course, but I'm going to show you. So we have active particles. Okay, and let me just show how easy to change. Okay, I don't want the sphere, I want this one, and okay, that's it. And I don't want this, I want the bottle, this magnificent bottle that I've modeled just for this tutorial, and it's done. And then of course I felt the need to, I want a different random seed. I can change it, and I can check it in real time where the particles are. Okay, so let me just change so you can see. Okay, 7 blah blah blah, use, so I can kind of choose where to put the particles. And then I'm going to show you something really cool from TP. Let me just open and explain you here this procedure that I've made. Well, it was a tip from Joe Scar, a guru from TP. I was trying to make some friction so I can have random path on the particles, and he said, okay, you can't control with the texture, but you can control with objects what you want. So I did that. It's really cool to have the opportunity to talk with TP gurus sometimes, because they give you super cool ideas. So let me just show you the flow boundary. I'm going to explain you afterwards what is flow boundary, but let me just show the mesh. Okay, cool. And what's this? Okay, this is geometry that I made here, this geometry, okay? And I'm using it to give this nice different paths on the particles. Let me just hide the mesh again so you can see the particles are not going straight as they should, okay? And okay, let me just press play. Cool. This way we have a random kind of path. Cool. And of course there are some issues when using this, but I'm going to explain you another way to do this, because we have a cool feature on TP that is called layer to particle. So I made automatically, let me just I'm going to turn off the flow boundary that I'm creating here. Okay, this is the active, inactive, and this is the flow boundary. Okay, I'm just going to disable it. So if I make show the mesh, you will not see anything over here. Okay, show mesh, and you will not see anything, and the drops are going down fast. Okay, but with this new feature from TP, I can just position a new mesh and put it on the layer flow boundary, and automatically it's added to my collision with the drops. So let me just show you the power of TP. Okay, I'm going to put it over here. Okay, and when the droplet falls, it will collide with this. Let me just check this, make it on flow boundary, and okay, this is it. So you have this collision. So imagine you have a director. No, but I want a camera going here and following this droplet, and you have the full control of this, because you just have to add one more here. Okay, and you can define the path of this, like just by adding more geometry to TP. Of course, okay, let me just press play so we can see. Okay, cool. And you have the droplet colliding with it. Cool. So, but let me just turn this off. I mean, I'm going to hide TP and delete this one and start to explain the tool itself step by step, so you can learn some cool features from TP6. And this is an intermediate level for me. I think this is not beginner, because it has a lot of concepts that are not so simple. So let me just show you again what's happening here when I unhide TP. Cool. And choose it. I'm going to put on the sphere. Okay, what's up? Just check what's happening here. Okay. Okay. So it's creating on the sphere. I was choosing TP, so it had this error of circle reference. Okay, so let me just show you. Here the droplets go and in a straight path, correct? Because I disconnected the flow boundary. I've turned it off. So I'm going to turn on. Okay. I'm going to show the mesh so you can see what's happening. Okay, cool. So, and this is what? This is a geom instance. So it's particles that are creating with based on this instance here. I'm going to bend it, okay, because in a sphere I made this bend. So now you can see that this droplet doesn't have a straight path. So I'm just hiding. Oh, and of course this is a TD tool, so I made it. You can choose how many these particles you have. So imagine you want less particles, so less of these geometric instances, and you can change the seed, of course. So if you I want to be okay here on this one, so I changed the seed and now it affects only this droplet. So this is really a cool way to control the path or to make it more believable, because there are different friction based on physics rules in the real world, and we are trying to mimic them here, okay? And I think this is really a nice way to do it. Okay, so I'm going to hide the mesh for now because I don't need to see this flow boundary, and I'm going to start explaining the tool itself. Okay, just so you can understand a little bit better, let's start from the beginning. Okay, so I've used here groups and subgroups. Why? Because I'm using the mesher, that is a implicit shape from TP that creates a mesh based on the particles, and I want this implicit shape to affect all the active, inactive, trail and spread particles. So I use the first group so I can have subgroups, and then I call the droplets, that of course includes all of this. Cool. So let's start. Okay, so this is a little bit complex, and I consider this intermediate tutorial, so I will not explain how this controls the size, and this is the particle that is burning in the surface, and here is the node, and blah blah blah. So let's if you want a basic level, you should see the gurus from, like I told before, Joe Scar has some cool tutorials, and Risto Velev and so on, that explain all of these concepts. So this is a more explaining the features from TP and how to make a TD tool. So okay, so let's start. Position born inactive. So this is a position born that makes the particles born in a specific position, and this position is this node, and this node is connected, so you can see how simple it is to create a TD tool. You just have to connect this here. Of course, if it doesn't have anything over here, let me just explain you. Okay, I'm going to make a new node. Okay, standard node here, and I just let me just put on frame 0, and I just have to make it here, and it will create automatically something that I can output in 3D Studio Max to control the. So this is it. This creates the inactive particles, this one creates the active ones, and this one creates the flow boundary. Okay, the flow boundary that I explained to you, it's the mesh we are using to collide with our fluids. And this flow boundary I created here, a group, it will be used here in this flow boundary. And the flow boundary, of course, is the list of the objects you want to collide with the flow group, with the fluids. Cool? So let's continue. So here we have the birth, and afterwards I make the dynamics. Okay, so I only want the gravity to affect the active particles. So active, I create a force. Of course, this is beginner's concepts, but I will explain a little bit. So you have here a helper or operators, dynamics, you have the force, okay, and then you say I want to go using a vector, the z value negative, so it's going down basically. This is super simple. And then you have the trailborne. I didn't use trailborne because I wanted to have a different control, so I decided to use a position borne. And what is this making? I'm going to turn off the mesh and put the ticks on so you can see here. Okay, let me just minimize this. Okay, and I'm going to show you here. Okay. So basically we have the active particles are falling down, and then we are creating a position borne pistol shot per call. So it's going to make these trails. Okay, let me just show you. I'm just going to change a little bit the gravity. Okay, I have here the 1000. I'm going to put 100, so it falls a little bit slower. Okay, I've exposed this value of the gravity because maybe you want to control the velocity that particles are falling down. Let's see here on the sphere. Okay, I press play and I see, okay, this is a little bit fast, so I can put the gravity 10 and restart the animation here, or gravity 10, and let's see how now. Okay, slow, and of course they are falling down, and then you can add the flow boundary and so on. Okay, so let's continue. So we have the trail here, and this is cool. I didn't explain this. Let me show the mesh again, turn off the ticks. Cool. So the mesher, this implicit shape, I call mesher, but it's the implicit shape from TP, it's going to analyze this particle scale to do the mesh. So I've exposed this value also. Particle size, I'm going to make a big droplet, okay, 5. Cool. So now I'm going to put the gravity 500, so it falls faster. Okay, this is really big, so you can just see the effect. And I wanted to show this because the trail that I am creating here is going to assume the size from the original particle. Cool, so it's going to take this size, and I'm going to divide it because I want these trail particles to be smaller, of course. Cool. So I'm taking the value A, the size from active particle, and dividing it by a floating number 2. So I'm dividing and piping this size to the new particles, so the trail ones. So That's a cool way because this is procedural. So if you change the particle, the original one, it will affect the trails. It's really cool. So let me just put again the particle size in 2.2 and cool. We have here the trails assuming half of the size of the original one. Cool. And then I have this kill distance. This I was having some problems doing this, and I was looking to the sky to have some help, and I didn't have. I had to go to the Facebook and ask Master Fabian, "Hey, Master, I'm having some problems. I'm not able to kill the particles based on the distance." And I'm just going to explain what was happening. I was doing this on the sphere here, and I'm going to show you the particle trail, and I'm going to turn off again the show mesh and show the ticks. Cool. So if I don't kill the particles based by distance, what happens? I'm going to show you and turn off here. Okay, cool. Now my trails don't die. So, and I would have fluids here like stalactites or something like that. I don't want that. So I want to kill the trail particles based on the distance of the original object. Cool? So he explained me how to do it with a lot of helpers. I never used this one, so it's really cool. You can basically tell using this, I can check the distance between, or making some relations between particles and objects. And you see you have TD tool UI because I'm using this as a TD tool. So I've exposed this value here. You have, if you select TP, you have here, because it's like this. I'm going to remove the objects here, and okay, it's not killing anything. And unfortunately, TP doesn't assume the name I gave. So I gave the name kill by distance, and here it appears object. I sent an email asking if it's possible to do this, because the user will not understand what this is for. But of course, this is a tutorial, and it's I'm trying to explain you what this is. So it's to kill the trail particles. So you just choose sphere, and the trails are killed based on a distance between the particles and the object. Cool. Let me just show you here. So the trail, the objects that you are choosing on the UI. Here you choose closest point by surface and use this point data and use the distance threshold inverted to delete the particle. So it's a little bit complex for beginners, but if you have some knowledge from TP, this is really simple. So it's deleting the particle when this radius it's bigger than 0.5. So let me just show you a quick example. If I change this value, what happens? Okay, so it's 0.5. If I change this for 5, the trails will live longer because this is distance 5 from particle and this object. Cool. But this 0.5 was the value I found perfect for this surface and for this tutorial. Okay, so we have kill distance particle, then we have particle spread, and here I've used the same method of analyzing the particle distance between the particle and the ground. Okay, cool. And I'm just making a little spread of the particles when they fall on the ground, so it's a little bit more realistic. So the drop falls down and then spreads a little bit, and then the velocity kills. The velocity is killed. I'm going to show you how. So particle spread. We take the active particles. We again are going to understand the distance between the active and the ground. Of course, I used again as TD tool UI, but when you see the TD tool, it will appear object again, so it's here. So this is really not so cool. I'm asking this to be changed because if it appears ground, the user would understand immediately that he has to choose the ground. But let me just remove it. And if I remove, the particles fall and don't spread, of course, because they are not analyzing and they are not getting this node here. So I just have to pick it, ground, and there it is. You have this particle spreading, okay? So again, it's measuring the distance with this distance condition from the particles and a ground surface that you are going to give to feed here. Cool? And then what it happens when this distance is true, so 0.3 between this distance and this one, a position born is on, so, and it's going to the spread group, okay? And again, I've used the same trick. I'm analyzing the size from the active particle and dividing it by 2 because I want the spreading particles. So the big particle comes here, and when it spreads, it becomes smaller, of course. It loses scale. So, and here I'm attributing velocity and taking it out. And how? So the particle gets from 0 to 5 a velocity. And what is 0 to 5? It's the age. So let me try to explain to you, because sometimes I don't explain too well. So let me just try. So you have this age here. So it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So particle age is 0 here. Oh, in this case it's the spread. So it's 0 when it starts the spreading. So age 0 or age 1 here, and then 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay? And I'm taking this number for thresholds. So when this age is inside 0 and 5, the velocity of it will be 10 with a 50 variation. Cool? But when it's not, I've used the inverted helper, the velocity will be 0 with 0 variation, of course. So let me just show you. So let me just zoom it, and okay, so here the particle 0, age 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then stops the velocity. And why did I use this random here? So because I don't want the particles to stop in the same frame. So I've just used the random from 6 to 10 and pipe it on the threshold. So this second value. Here it's 5, but it could be 1000 because it's really using this one, not this one. When you pipe it here, so it doesn't matter if you have here 0, because it will only respect this one. So now some particles stop at 6 when their age reach number 6, and some particles continue until they are 10. So this is a more natural way. Some particles have like the ground has some different friction because it's dirt over here and it's not dirt over there. Okay, so it's a cool way to simulate friction. So I've talked about the active particles, the inactive particles, the trails, and the spreading. So now I'm going to talk about this flow boundary. So it's something new from Thinking Particle 6. So they are making some really cool stuff for us, and you have the flow, the smoke, and the flow. It's fluids, so you have a real flow inside TP. I'm joking, it's not real flow, but it's really cool, and I'm using more and more often. So the flow group is where you define the how the fluids behave, all the viscosity, density. You know, if you are used to making fluids in real flow, there are similar values over here. The adhesion here, it's the force. You can check the manual, but it's like some like viscosity. It's something like viscosity. Or well, let me just show you the manual. Something very useful, so you can. Where is the manual? Not oh, here it is. Okay, cool. So I use this a lot. So flow, okay, and you should use it also. The flow boundary and the flow group. Okay, and here I've used this adhesion really high because I want the particles to be always near to the mesh. So the attraction force on the surface, water drop sticks to the surface. Yeah, I was trying to explain you because in real flow it's stickiness and here it's adhesion, so my concepts are a little bit confused. So that's why I could not explain. Here, well, a value of 1 or 10 it's enough because I've used the boundary friction. So the particles tend to be stick to the mesh. So let me just try to explain you. After the flow, I have the solver. Of course, you have always, and I'm used to do here in the dynamic set just for the solvers and put it on in the end. This is crucial because if you put the flow solver before this, it will not work, or it will not work properly. So here it's so simple. You just have to put flow group and just choose the specific behaviors, and here you have the flow boundary. So it's all the surface that will interact with the liquid. And as I told you, I'm using this super cool feature here on the birth, layer to particle. So layer to particle, super powerful, and it's really well optimized for now. So every single object that goes inside this layer, it's automatically transformed to a particle. So if I want to control the path and the intersection for this, I just add the mesh on this flow boundary layer, and using this, all the objects are going to be transformed to instance shape, and if I want, I can hide the original shapes. So, of course, I'm always saying this. You can go to Sebas, and they have like super cool explanations on this. So let me just show you here. Okay, so you go to sebas.com and then you have the new features, And of course, they explain a lot better than me, and just doing some cool tutorials for with my little knowledge. But here, I'm sure they have this. Let me just okay. You have the fluid solver here, so you have cool videos explaining a lot of things that I'm trying to explain here in a simple way. So for sure they have layer to particle, and if they don't, you have the manual and you can understand. So here the layer string, I've used flow and then this, but I could just write this boundary, and but I was thinking on making more layers, so all the layers starting with flow will uh, try and look the meshes inside it. And then I've used this one because all the meshes have different names, but they will always turn, or they all turn to particles. So I think this is it. I'm just going to show you, like for instance on this sphere, I'm going to show you with a little bit more particles, like 20 particles, and then 500 inactive, and then I'm going to show you the properties, show mesh, and hide these ones. Then I'm going to make a quick preview on the perspective. Okay, cool. Preview, and cool. Oh, let me just put the gravity a little bit bigger. Okay. Okay, stop and don't play, sorry. So we can have like 1000. I'm just going to put like 40 particles, active ones. Oh, okay, here and 40. Cool. And then preview it. And here it is. Really cool stuff, really cool tool that I can use in production whenever I want to make some freshness on some packages and so on. And you can, if you have some doubts, of course this is a tutorial just to understand the power of TP and making a TD tool, so you can expose the values, and that's it. I hope you like it. Let me just show you the preview. Hi there, I've edited a little bit video so I can make a preview with the different colors and meshing, a little bit more quality on the meshing so you can see a little bit better. And I forgot to tell you something that it's important on this specific flow, and I'm going to show you here something that I didn't tell about the particle trails. Okay, so as you see in the preview, the trails are scaling down to be, so here these trails are not with the same scale always, so they are scaling down by time. So I made a timer, converted this value so I could animate the float to control the size, the float number. And why did I do this? Because, well, it's more natural, so the trails tend to lose scale with time because the water is flowing down. And I've exposed this value, and I forgot to tell you about the trail length. So let me just make it with the mesh with a lower quality in the resolution. Okay, here it is. So it's in real time. Let me just put less particles in the end, like 20 particles, inactive. Okay, so let me just check here. Okay, they are scaling down. Okay, this is maybe a too much lower value. Let me just put 1.4. Okay, and zoom a little bit down. Okay, so I can have the trail length if I change this value for 1, for instance, so you can see the trail will disappear. So basically all this here, let me just minimize again. Here on the, so I've exposed this value over here that will control how how much the time to scale down the particles. So 1, it's immediately, so I'm just going to put 10, and the trails, let me just 10 please. Okay, so TP is computing a little bit, so the trail will be longer, and of course we can put 30 and it will be longer. Okay, so this is a cool way to control the trail. And another thing that I do, I created a random value between, let me just see. Okay, so I'm creating a random value per particle from 0 to 100, and then I'm using only 1%. So when it's inside this value from 99 to 100, it will change the group to inactive. So I thought it would be cool that some particles from the trail leave, so they go to the inactive, because I was watching some videos of droplets falling in a window, and some particles stay there, so it loses this the density. I mean, the trails tend to disappear, but some particles stay. So I've decided 1%. So if you want to have more particles changing group, it's this value. I did this one. I didn't expose this because I thought it was more natural to only have 1%. But feel free to change this value if you want. So again, have a great Christmas, and hopefully next year I will do more tutorials. Bye bye.